Good afternoon, everyone. Smart manufacturing solutions should be incredibly valuable to manufacturing companies. It seems obvious that improved visibility, quicker response times, and predictive capabilities, and more, should lead to reduced downtime, increased quality, better throughput, and reduced costs in manufacturing. The technologies themselves are generally not that hard to get up and running either. So, why are so few companies achieving their goals when implementing these solutions? In this webinar, we'll address why achieving the desired outcomes is so hard and detail an approach that will help you realize the value you desire from these Industry 4.0 programs. My presentation today is titled Maximizing Value Realization. I know that phrase is not a common one, but I believe it should be used more frequently. When many companies talk about value, they're discussing the theoretical value a project may achieve as part of the business case used when justifying the investment. But few companies maintain a focus on actually realizing that projected value over the course of their initiative. And as I mentioned up front, smart manufacturing solutions should be incredibly valuable to manufacturing companies. So why are so few companies achieving their goals when implementing these solutions? As usual, there's more than a single root cause of failure, but many of these causes can be summarized as too much focus on the technology itself and not enough focus on how to take advantage of those new capabilities to realize actual monetary value through improved performance and reduced costs. As I go through the presentation today, I will discuss what needs to be done to maximize the value realization from smart manufacturing. The implication is that many of those tasks are not being done today, and that's why so many companies are failing to reach the goals for their initiatives. As a quick aside, the tech industry is not really helping manufacturers realize the value either. There are many reasons why the vast majority of tech companies today focus solely on implementing their technology instead of making it their business to help the customer realize value. First, as a product company, it's natural to focus on your technology. It's literally the foundation of your business. Second, company valuations are driven from licenses and subscriptions, not from services. Tech companies are actually rewarded for minimizing the percentage of revenue coming from helping their customers utilize the solutions they provide. Finally, manufacturers themselves often push back on the technology vendors who propose something like this. The push is to get the solution at the lowest possible cost. Optional services, such as those being discussed today, are seen as something that can be done internally instead of something that should be paid for. Given these reasons, it's easy for vendors to accede to customer demands and let them be the ones responsible for driving value. It's said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So what can we do differently? What I'm here to discuss today is a different path. Whether these tasks are being performed internally by the manufacturer or if they're being assisted by an external group, these activities should be performed as part of every smart manufacturing implementation. At a high level, this is not rocket science. There's nothing in this list that is going to be new to anyone in the audience today. And yet, as we go through the list, I don't know of any smart manufacturing initiative at any company where all of these principles are being followed. So let's go through the list. Begin with the end in mind. The probability of reaching your goals is much higher when those goals are actually defined. Multiple portions of the initiative will work better together, better decisions will be made along the way, and there will be much more alignment in different parts of your team if there's a common vision of what is the true north of the initiative. Doing the basics right. This could be a smart manufacturing or Industry 4.0 initiative that utilizes technologies such as AI or machine learning, but the success still depends on the basics such as change management, communication, and project management. Driving adoption. There are some technologies that are embedded into the manufacturing process itself and do not require much interaction with your people. But for the most part, the solutions in this space, success depends on how well the solution is embraced and used by the people in the organization. Adapting the existing processes. If the same activities are being done the same way by the same people after implementing the solution, chances are the performance of the process is going to be the same as it is today too. So fundamentally, something has to be done differently tomorrow in order for there to be value driven from the solution. And finally, measure the impact and iterate. Lord Kelvin was the first to say that you can't improve what you don't measure. You should take a baseline at the start of the initiative and then measure progress at every step along the way. So let's go through these one at a time. Most organizations embarking on an Industry 4.0 journey aren't doing it just because everyone else is talking about it. There's usually some particular problem that they're trying to solve. They may be looking to do predictive maintenance on some particularly vexing piece of equipment. Maybe they're looking to improve quality overall. A few have even developed a multi-year roadmap of different use cases or technologies that they want to put in place. But I've yet to engage with any company that has a complete vision of what the future state looks like, that is driven by a detailed business case of how they will actually drive the value. None have detailed out the cultural and process changes that will be required in order to take full advantage of the new capabilities. Nobody's been able to express the true north that guides their initiative towards a clearly defined purpose. Without any of these things, any roadmap that they've put together is bound to be incomplete at best and may lead them down the wrong path at worst. If you come out of this presentation with just one concrete action to take, it should be to create a clear definition of those items I just listed, even if it's only done at a high level. At Visual Decisions, we've worked with SESME on their Smart Manufacturing Assessment Framework. If you're not familiar with SESME, it's the official Smart Manufacturing Institute for the United States, funded by the Department of Energy. This is an industry standard approach to documenting where your organization is today, where you want to be, what that would be worth to the organization, and what are the steps to get there. It is a high-level, quick engagement that provides a framework for your company that you can then build upon to continue fleshing out the details. That's only one approach to getting started. There are many other ways to create the vision. At Visual Decisions, we also offer a more bespoke, detailed process that will help you map out that vision in more detail. You may choose to do it all internally as well, but my strongest recommendation today is to create the vision prior to making large investments in any solutions. This may seem basic, but one of the keys to success with these initiatives is to address the fundamentals. Far too often, smart manufacturing initiatives are started within a small team and treated more like a group research project instead of a business transformation program. So here's a partial list of the basics we believe need to be a part of the planning for every implementation. Change management. At Visual Decisions, we're big fans of John Kotter's work from Harvard, but there are many different frameworks out there to lead and manage change within the organization. All the frameworks have common core elements, such as involving a broad base of people as early and as often as possible, having clear and frequent communication throughout the process, developing a clear vision and sharing that vision throughout the company, empowering employees, finding the wins for each of the stakeholders, and generating quick wins to build momentum and more. Project management. I'll talk in more detail about our own project management methods later in the presentation, but the key for now is to utilize any thorough project management methodology for your program. These implementations are complex and can involve many different technologies and touch many organizations within the company and even outside of it. Using a well-defined project management approach will help keep things on time and on budget, and having clear roles and ownership is one of the critical contributions of these approaches. Improved collaboration. Because these initiatives can and should involve so many people within the company, it's important to have a strategy around collaboration. For many projects, the stakeholders could include suppliers, customers, or other partners. Having a framework for how to bring all these groups together and align everyone's efforts is important. We have based our approach on strategic doing, which was created by Ed Morrison out of Purdue University. You don't have to use that same framework, but it's critical to have some approach. Training. Assume that your workforce is going to need some upskilling in various areas. Be sure to get an accurate assessment of the current skills of the workforce, identify what will be needed to achieve your vision, run a gap analysis, and then put plans in place to train the workforce to close those gaps. And technology basics. As someone with a lean manufacturing background, I detest rework. Understanding the larger picture of what your company wants to put in place over the next 3 to 5 years is important so that you don't choose short-term solutions that won't fit into a long-term picture. Just as a post or some other immovable object on the shop floor can be referred to as a monument that has to be worked around, these dead-end technologies become monuments within your company. Using a set of guidelines for technology attributes that any individual solution should follow can also be very helpful, and Sesame has published a list of 7 principles that are a good start here. There are other basics to consider, but this list is a good start to make sure you're setting your company up for long-term success. As I mentioned earlier, most smart manufacturing solutions are still reliant on people to some extent. The people in your company still have to use the new solution for them to provide value. Many of the companies that never progressed beyond the pilot phase have failed because they never got the backing and participation from the people in the organization. Here are a few steps to ensure your program gets the adoption it requires. Focus on behaviors and habits. What is it that you actually want people to, in the various roles, doing with your system? What are the specific behaviors that you're trying to drive on the shop floor and within the support staff? BJ Fogg's model for behavior is very helpful here. Behavior equals motivation plus ability plus prompt. What are the motivations of your people? How can you increase their ability to perform the tasks in question? How do you reduce any friction standing in the way? How can you prompt when those actions are supposed to be taken? And the last element of his framework is important too. Celebrate when those tasks are performed to build that positive association in people's minds. Standard work. A related topic is that of standard work. There can be a very powerful synergy between standard work and driving adoption. This isn't just for operators either. Standard work concepts apply to leadership and support staff as well. For example, your company may want to implement standardized problem-solving methods as part of your rollout. These smart manufacturing solutions can be embedded within each step of that standardized approach. This benefits the people in the organization by having a more common approach to problem solving across the entire staff, but it also helps to ensure that people are utilizing the solution on a regular basis. Make it visual. At Visual Decisions, we're obviously big fans of making things as visual as possible. One of the customers we worked with years ago had a phrase that has stuck with me: make the ugly visible. By that, he meant that if you hide problems behind the curtain, they tend to get ignored. But if you put the ugly front and center, there's much more incentive to do something about it. That is absolutely one aspect of visual that I'm referring to here. But there's also the concept of visual controls within the facility. Lean has a big emphasis on making things visual and using those controls to influence the behaviors of people. We're strong believers in that concept, but we believe that having live information coming from the shop floor can be even more effective at guiding people to the behaviors you are seeking. Having that information out there and visible at all times also helps to drive additional adoption of the systems. Process improvement is a participation sport. This is another favorite phrase from a customer. This plant manager ensured that the IoT system put in place got adoption from everyone by putting a TPM Tuesday practice in place. Every week, the lines would stop production for an hour. The operators, supervisors, maintenance teams, engineering, etc., would all gather together at the line and look at the data from the previous week. They would then pick one of the top 3 reasons for downtime over the past 7 days and brainstorm solutions to the issue. In that plant, everyone used the solution on a regular basis. And avoid Big Brother syndrome. Many of these solutions can feel intrusive to the people on the shop floor. They can feel like they're being watched and monitored to document any behavioral issues. This is particularly true for certain solutions, such as video analytics. It is important to get ahead of these concerns and let people know that the solutions are not intended for those purposes, but are instead intended to help people improve the business performance so that the whole plant will thrive. It also helps to involve people in the process during the implementation and to do things to empower the workforce over the long run, such as the TPM Tuesday idea above. This is just scratching the surface, but these ideas will help you ensure that the people in your organization use these systems on a daily basis to improve operations. I've been wearing a Fitbit for over 11 years now. In that time, I've probably put on 20 pounds, and it's not the Fitbit's fault. It's a great IoT device. But wearing a Fitbit doesn't automatically make you thinner. You still have to change your process each day with better diet and more exercise. It's the same thing on the shop floor. Putting smart manufacturing systems out there alone won't make much progress towards your goal. Fundamentally, you have to do things differently tomorrow than they are done today in order to affect real improvements in performance. This applies not only to operators, but to all of the support staff as well. Out of the 5 pillars, this is the one with the lengthiest list of potential actions to take. The thoughts here are just scratching the surface of how to adapt your processes to take full advantage of the new digital capabilities. Please feel free to use the QR code on the screen to access a library of free content with more details. Adapting the manufacturing process itself. This is the most fundamental step to drive value. If you break down one of your manufacturing processes into its individual actions, where can you enhance or augment or simplify or automate or expedite, eliminate or standardize those steps using the technical capabilities of your smart manufacturing system? Digital lean. Whether you have a formal continuous improvement process today or not, a digital lean program should be part of your plans to get maximum value from your smart manufacturing investment. Creating a data-driven culture of improvement with high levels of automation between your systems and your lean practices will drive improvement much faster than traditional operational excellence practices alone. Maintenance. Many smart manufacturing implementations are focused on keeping machines up and running more effectively. There are ways to use the capabilities of your new solutions to increase the mean time between failures, such as predictive capabilities, condition-based maintenance, optimization of preventive maintenance tasks, augmenting the autonomous maintenance program, and much more. But there can also be integration to your maintenance management system in order to minimize the mean time to repair. This integration can help speed the reaction time, improve diagnostic capabilities using AI, and much more. Leadership practices. Leadership practices should be among the first changes you implement once your solution is up and running. If management is using the data during stand-up meetings, Gemba walks, and really throughout their own daily practices, it will help set the tone for the rest of the staff to utilize the information in their daily activities. And it will also drive better decision-making. As part of this, consider setting up a complete digital management operating system as a long-term goal for your smart manufacturing program. And there are many other processes to consider, including quality, material handling, inventory management, manufacturing process or industrial engineering, product development, IT and OT, finance, HR, and really just about everyone. I don't think I 100% agree with the Lord Kelvin quote from earlier. I do think it's possible to improve what you don't measure, but it's really hard to do it. It's highly uncertain that the things you're trying to do will lead to success, and you won't even really know if you've achieved success once you are done implementing. So avoid those problems and measure the progress. Use the data. Many of the implementations in smart manufacturing will be collecting data from the process. This data can and should be used over time to track how much of an impact is being made during the implementation. Prior to starting the implementation, there should be agreement on which KPI or key performance indicators will be used to measure the impact of the program. These KPIs should be baselined at the beginning of the implementation so that progress can be measured as you go along. Some thought and some intention should go into the selection of those KPI. What are you trying to achieve overall? Which areas do you think will drive the financial impact for the project? What are the behaviors that you're trying to instill in the organization? These factors and more should go into that decision. It's generally easier to track the functional impact of these projects since that data directly exists on the shop floor. However, it should be a goal of your overall program to document the translation between the functional metrics and the financial ones. Not only will this help measure the success of your initiative, but it can also help clarify the actions that need to be taken on a day-to-day basis on the shop floor. And then one tactic that we have found to be very helpful is to utilize a quarterly health check for the implementation. First and foremost, are the goals and targets laid out to justify the project being met? If so, great. If not, then start to dig into why that's the case. What is the status of the software and hardware? Is it collecting accurate data that is being made easily available to the people that need it? How's the adoption going? Can you track who's logging into the system and how often? How broad is the usage? How deep are people getting into the system to get the most out of it? What process changes have been implemented in order to take advantage of the new capabilities, etc. Once you have this information, then you can make any necessary course corrections in your implementation plan. Perhaps you need to adopt a stronger focus on the cultural or process improvement aspects. Maybe the technology implementation needs to be modified. But putting these health checks in place will give you the information you need to stay on track to meet your objectives. Those were the 5 pillars of value realization. At Visual Decisions, we have developed an implementation strategy that pulls all those pillars together to help drive success for our customers. We call it the value sprint methodology. Let's talk about that next. Here's the general flow for the process. Sprint 0 is the only one not focused on value. This is where the solution is initially commissioned and validated. Once that's in place, however, the real work of driving value begins in earnest. The overall smart manufacturing business case should identify many potential areas of value. In the roadmap we generate with the customer, we break those different value buckets into agile sprints that are hyper-focused on generating valuable outcomes at the end of each sprint. So each sprint should focus on one specific goal. The activities during that sprint should be structured to realize that value. More on those in a minute. Also, there should be additional functionality within the solution. There could be additional functionality within the solution that should be implemented as part of that sprint. And then there will be multiple sprints that take place. And the sequence of the sprints can be important. There are going to be foundational solution capabilities that need to be implemented first. There will also be foundational cultural issues that need to be addressed early to demonstrate the direction the organization wants to take. Additional factors to consider include the total amount of value potential for each sprint, the likelihood of success, organizational readiness for change in that area, and any dependencies that may exist, and other factors as well. Finally, the quarterly audits or health checks should be used to make certain that the sprints are achieving their goals, and if not, how should the sprints be adapted to improve their performance, and then iterate as necessary. So let's take a look at the structure of a value sprint in more detail. We begin first with the overall value plan. This will be used to create the roadmap of the sprints. Each sprint is going to have an outcome where we define the basic specific value that it is intended to achieve. It's critical that this outcome is defined in dollars or other currency. This can be supported through functional KPI targets as well, but the value being defined for the sprint should be actual dollar value to the organization. And that's part of why we discussed the importance of understanding the translation between functional and financial metrics earlier. So given the outcome plan defined for the sprint, that needs to be translated into specific actions that need to be taken during that sprint. And these actions can be broken into technology, culture, and process categories, though the categorization isn't as necessary and it's also flexible. For instance, we also used a policy and leadership category with some customers. The key here is that there exists a checklist of actions to run through within each sprint that tie into each of the different 5 pillars. So that was a quick run through of how to maximize value realization from smart manufacturing. If you would like more detail on the program or to discuss it with me directly, please follow up on any of the methods on the screen, and the QR code will take you to the Visual Decisions website for more information. Thank you very much.